In 2020, the running cost of Frederick's car was $5,200. 28% of the running cost was spent on insurance. So let's just break it down first. Insurance is going to be 28% of 5,200. Then it says 3/25 of the running cost was spent on maintenance. So maintenance is going to be 3/25 of the running cost, which is 5,200. Let's say $740 of the running cost was spent on tax. The remainder of the running cost was spent on petrol. So calculate the amount Frederick spent on petrol. So let's find the value for insurance and maintenance. Insurance is going to be 28 over 100 of 5,200, which is going to equal $1,456. Then for maintenance, we're going to find 3/25 of 5,200, $624. So to find the cost of petrol, we will subtract insurance, maintenance, and tax from the running cost. And that is going to give us $2,380. So to make your calculation easier, just do each calculation as you read the statement. Find your insurance cost, maintenance cost, tax is already given. And then once you have your values, subtract these values from your total, which is the running cost, and you would get the remaining money that was spent on petrol. In 2021, the tax has increased by 1.5%. Calculate the tax in 2021. So your tax was $740 initially. So to calculate the increase in the tax, which has been by 1.5%. So to calculate the new tax amount in 2021, we will do 740 times 1.5 over 100, which is basically your increase, and add this to the original amount, which is 740. So when you add the increase to the original amount, that would give you the new amount, which is in 2021. So 740 times 1.5 divided by 100 equals to 11.1. And we add that to 740, and that's going to give us $751.1. This is the tax in 2021. Then it says in January, the cost of petrol is $2.20 per liter. Find the cost of 38.7 liters of petrol. So we'll do 38.7 times 2.20. And that's going to give us going to be $85.14. The average amount of petrol Frederick's car uses in 7 liters per 100 kilometers. In January, he spends $215.60 on petrol. So calculate the number of kilometers he drives in January. So we know that the average amount that he uses is 7 liters per 100 kilometer. And the amount he spends on petrol is $215.60. So we have to know the number of kilometers he drives in January. So we know that per liter, the cost is 2.20. So 2.20 times 7 is going to give us the cost of 7 liters, which is 15.4. So $15.4 is the amount that is spent for 7 liters per 100 kilometers. If he's spending 215.60, so we'll do 215.60 divided by the amount for 7 liters. So since it says 100 kilometers, we'll do 14 times 100, which is 1400 kilometers. Because this cost was per kilometer, not per 100 kilometers. Because we divided the total amount that he spent on petrol by the amount that he spends on purchasing 7 liters of petrol. So that gives us the per kilometer cost. For per 100 kilometers, we times that by 100, and that is 1400 kilometers. So that's going to be your answer. In the next part, it says, in February, the cost of petrol increases by $2.24 per liter. Calculate the percentage increase from January to Feb. So in January, the cost was 2.20. In Feb, the cost is 2.24. So for percentage increase or even percentage decrease, we do new value minus old value divided by old value times 100. So new value is 2.24 minus the old value, which is 2.20, divided by 2.20 times 100. And that's going to give us 1.8 to correct to 2 decimal places. Question 2 says, here are the first 4 patterns in a sequence made using gray tiles and white tiles. So in the first pattern, as you can see, there's 6 gray tiles and 2 white tiles. Then in pattern 2, we have 10 gray tiles and we have 8 white tiles. Now in this next pattern, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 14. 14 gray tiles. And over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 18 white tiles in total. And in the last pattern 4, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18. 18 gray tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 plus 16, which is going to be 32 white tiles. So the question says, complete the table for the first 5 patterns in the sequence. So number of gray tiles in the fourth one is 18. And your pattern 4 has white tiles of 32. So total number of tiles is going to be 18 plus 32, which is 50. For the fifth pattern, now if you look at the number sequence of the gray tiles, there's an increase of 4. So that means 18 plus 4, that's going to give us 22 over here. For the white tiles, it first increased by 6, then it increased by 10, then it increased by 14. So there's an increase of 6, then 10, and then 14. I'm talking about the white tiles right now. So now from 32 onwards, that means it's going to increase by 18. So 32 plus 18, that's again going to give us 50. So we'll have 50 white tiles for the fifth pattern, and the total number of tiles is going to be 72. Then it says, find an expression in terms of n for the number of gray tiles in pattern n. As you saw that the gray tiles had a difference of 4. So 6, 10, 14, 18, 22. Each term has a common difference of 4, which means for the nth term, we multiply n with 4 because that is the common difference. Whatever the common difference is in a sequence, you always multiply that number by n. If the common difference is being added, So then your value would be positive n, and if the common difference is being subtracted, then it's going to be negative n. Over here, since we're adding 4, that's why 4n is positive. Now we're going to manipulate this nth term and create a new one which would go according to our sequence. So we know if we use 4n as the nth term, the first term would be 4 times 1, which is 4. And that is not the same as the first term in our sequence, which is 6, which means we need to add 2 to 4n to get 6. So let's try making the first term again. So let's try finding the first term again. So T1 would be 4 times 1 plus 2, which is 6. Let's try the third term. So that's going to be 4 times 3 plus 2, which is 12 plus 2, and that is 14, which is exactly what we have over here. Which means our nth term for the gray tiles is 4n plus 2. Pattern K has 98 gray tiles. Find K. Nth term was 4n plus 2. There are 98 gray tiles, so 98 equals 2. And since the pattern is K, that means this is your n value. So 4 times K plus 2. 98 minus 2 equals to 4K, which is 96. Since we're trying to find the value of K, so you first move 2 to the other side to isolate K. And to further isolate K, we divide both sides by 4. And that is going to give us 24 as the value of K. Find an expression in terms of n for the number of white tiles in pattern n. So for the white tiles, if we go back, it's 2, 8, 18, and right, the sequence was 2, 8, 18, 32, and 50. So let's see what the common difference is over here. Between 2 and 8, there's a common difference of 6. Between 8 and 18, there's a common difference of 10. Between 18 and 32, there's a common difference of 14. And between 32 and 50, there's a common difference of 16. So as you can see, there is like no common difference. Let's highlight this as the first difference. So now let's find the second difference. Second difference is going to be the difference of the first difference. So between 10 and 4, we have a difference of 4. Between 10 and 14, we have a difference of 4. And between 14 and 16, we have a difference of 4 again. This is your second difference. Now, whenever in a sequence, you don't have a common first difference, but you have a common second difference, that means your sequence is quadratic. So in this case, since our first difference was not common, but the second difference is common, this shows that we have a quadratic sequence. So what we will do is that we will divide our second difference by 2. We will divide our second difference by 2 to get the coefficient of n square. So 4 divided by 2 is going to be 2, which means the coefficient of n square is going to be 2n square. Right now, I'm going to keep this as my nth term because this is a starting point. So now let's see if we plug in the values. For the first term, it's going to be 2 times 1 square, which is 2, which is exactly the same as our sequence. For the second term, it's going to be 2 times 2 square, which is 8, which is once again the same as our sequence. Let's try another one. For the third term, 2 times 3 square is going to be 9 times 2, which is 18. As you can see, with 2n square, we're getting all of the terms in our sequence, which means the nth term for white tiles is 2n squared. We don't need to further solve this because this nth term exactly gives us the pattern that we're looking for. Always remember, if the first difference is not common, you will find the second difference because this is the quadratic sequence. And if the second difference is common, that validates our point that we're trying to make, that this is a quadratic sequence. Then what you do is you divide your second difference by 2 to get the coefficient of n squared. And just in this case, 2n squared became our nth term. We don't need to further solve it. But in other cases, there are sequences where you further need to solve it and add more terms with your n squared value. So for that, you basically substitute back your values again and see if you're getting the same sequence or not. So we're going to go through one of those questions in the other papers, most probably. Or like I'll make up a separate video for it and put it up on the channel. But for now, remember, these are the basic steps of finding the nth term for a quadratic sequence. Now find the total number of tiles in pattern 20. So total tiles would be your number of gray tiles plus number of white tiles. For gray tiles, our nth term was 4n plus 2. And for white tiles, it's 2n squared. Talking about pattern 2, which means n equals to 20. So we're going to substitute n with 20. And this is what we're going to have. 4 times 20 is 80 plus 2 times 400. 82 plus 800, which is 882. So this is your total number of tiles for pattern 20. Question 3 says the graph shows the cost in dollars of buying a length of fabric t meters long. On the y-axis, we have the cost, and the x-axis, we have the length of fabric in meters. Use the graph to find the cost of buying 3.8 meters of fabric. So for 3.8 meters, that's going to be over here. So we draw a line from 3.8 meters. And that's basically equal to $28. That is your cost of buying a fabric of length of 3.8 meters. Then Samira buys K meters of fabric. She pays with a $20 note and receives a 1.50 change. Use the graph to find the value of K. So first, let's figure out what is the cost of this fabric. So she's giving $20 and she's getting a $1.50 back. So 20 minus 1.50 is going to equal to $18.5. So now we go to the graph and check what is the corresponding length of fabric for $18.5. So $18 is going to be over here. 18.5 is in the middle of this block and the 19th block. So approximately this. I'm getting 2.5. Yeah, I'm getting 2.5 as the value of the fabric. That is my answer, 2.5 meters. Then Anita cuts 10 meters of fabric into 3 lengths to make a blouse, a shirt, and a dress. The lengths of fabric needed to make the blouse, shirt, and dress are in the ratio 6:8:11. Find the length of the fabric that is cut to make the dress. So total fabric that she's using to make all these 3 garments is 10 meters. They want us to find the length of the fabric to make the dress. So for dress, I'm going to make the fraction for the garment first. For the dress, we're using 11 over the sum of all the quantities in the ratio, 6 plus 8 plus 11, times the total fabric, which is 10. That's going to be 11 over 25 times 10, which is 110 over 25. And that is going to give us 4.4 meters as the length of the fabric used for the dress. The upper bound for the area of a rectangular piece of fabric is 8.8125 meters square. The width of the piece of the fabric is 2.3 meters, correct to the nearest 0.1 meters. The length of the piece of the fabric is d meters, correct to the nearest 0.1 meters. We have to find the value of d. So they've given us the upper bound of the area of the fabric. They have given us the width. They have asked us to find the length. So let's first find the upper bound of the piece of fabric. The reason why we're going to find the upper bound of the piece of fabric is because for area, the formula is length times width. And since we have the upper bound of the area, so that means when we're trying to find upper bounds in multiplication, we multiply the upper bound values. Hence, we need to find the upper bound of the width, and we need to find the upper bound of the length. So for the width, first we divide the degree of accuracy by 2. So 0.1 divided by 2, which is going to be 0.05 meters. Once we've divided the degree of accuracy by 2, we will add this amount to our width of the fabric. Why we're adding? Because we're trying to find the upper bound. So in upper bound, we add the value, and in lower bound, we subtract it. So we'll do 2.3 plus 0.05 is going to be 2.35 meters. This is your upper bound of the width. Now what we do is we find the upper bound of the length. So for the length, degree of accuracy is 0.1 as well. So 0.1 divided by 2, which is 0.05 meters. So your upper bound would be d, which is the length of the piece of fabric, plus 0.05. So now that we've covered the upper bound of both the length and the width, we will use our value of the area, which has the upper bound of 8.8125, and that equals to 2.35 times d plus 0.05. So we do 8.8125 divided by 2.35 equal to d plus 0.05. When we divide the two, we get 3.75. And then we subtract 0.05 from 3.75. And that gives us 3.7. So D equals to 3.7 meters. That is your answer. Question 4 says a cuboid has dimensions x centimeter by x centimeters by 10 centimeters. The volume of the cuboid is 62.5 centimeter cube. Find the value of x. So volume of a cuboid has the formula of length times width times the height. So we'll put 62.5 equal to x times 10. 62.5 divided by 10 equals to x squared. I kept the variables on one side and the numbers on the other. So 62.5 divided by 10 is 6.25. Square root both sides to get rid of the square on x. So that means your square root of 6.25 is going to be 2.5 centimeter. That is your value of x. Always remember when you're trying to get rid of a square on a term, you have to square root it. And since you have, in this case, two terms, like, and each on one side of the equal to sign, so that means you will put the square root sign on both sides, not just one. So if x squared gets square rooted, so 6.25 would also get square rooted. And that would give us the value of x, which was 2.5. Part B says a piece of card AOB is a sector of a circle centered with angle 84 degrees and radius 15 centimeters. Show that the arc length of the sector is 7 pi centimeters. So for the arc length, the formula we use is theta over 360 times 2 pi r. The angle is 84 divided by 360 times 2 times pi times the radius, which is 15. So since they're giving the answer in terms of pi, we will keep pi as it is. We know 2 ones are 2 and 2 times 180 is 360. 3 fives are 15 and 3 times 60 is 180. 5 ones are 5 and 5 twelves are 60. So we have 84 over 12 pi and 12 times 7 is 84. So 7 pi is your answer as given in the question. Then it says OA is joined to OB to form the curved surface of a cone. Calculate the radius of the cone. In the second part, it says OA is joined to OB to form the curved surface area of a cone. We have to calculate the radius of the cone. So to calculate the radius of the cone, if we go back to our cone that we will get, we know that this slant height, which was the radius of the sector, would now be our slant length. And we know that the arc length of the sector that we found in the previous part was 7 pi. So this is the arc length. So when we turn this piece of paper into a cone, that means this entire portion is going to be our same value as the arc length. And this entire portion, which is the circle face of the cone, is going to have a circumference because also it's a circle. And that circumference value is going to be the same as our arc length value, which means 2 pi r is equal to 7 pi. And this way we can find the radius of the cone. So r is going to be 7 pi over 2 pi. The pi get cancelled out. And 7 divided by 2 is 3.5 centimeter. That is your radius of the cone. So always remember when you have like a piece of like a paper which is cut into a sector, and if you roll it to make a cone, your arc length is going to be the same as the circumference of the circular base of a cone. Then it says find the height of the cone. So going back to our cone, like I said, the slant length is 15. This is what they're asking us to find, and we already found the radius in the previous part, which is 3.5. So as you can see, it's a right angle triangle. So we'll do 15 square, which is the hypotenuse square, equals 2h square plus 3.5 square. So 15 square minus 3.5 square equals to 8 square, 212.75. And now we will square root both sides like we did previously. And that will give us 14.59 centimeter as our height. Then it says an empty barrel in the shape of a cylinder has radius 20 centimeters and height 80 centimeters. So this is a cylinder. has a height of 80 and radius of 20. The barrel is filled with water at a rate of 5,500 centimeter. At the rate of 5,500 centimeter cube per minute, calculate the time taken to completely fill the barrel, giving your answer in minutes and seconds, correct to the nearest second. So let's first find the volume first. Volume of a cylinder is basically equal to pi r square h. That's going to be pi times 20 square times 80. So our volume is going to be pi times 20 square times 80. That equals to 100,530.96 centimeter cube. Since the rate is equal to 5,500 centimeter cube per minute, so our equation would be rate equals to volume over time. Rate is 5,500. Volume is given as this. And time is what we have to find. So we will divide this by 5,500 to find our time in minutes first. And that's going to be 18.278 minutes. So it says give your answer in minutes and seconds, correct to the nearest second. So the 0.278 part, I'm going to times that by 60 because 1 minute equals to 60 seconds. So 0.278 times 60 is equal to 16.68 seconds. So we have 18 minutes and it says nearest, correct to the nearest second. So that's going to be 17 seconds. We round the 16.68 to 17. In question 5 says complete the table of values for the equation y equals to x cubed minus 4x plus 3. So we'll substitute x equals to 3 in the equation. Y equals to negative 3 cube minus 4 times negative 3 plus 3. Negative 3 cube is negative 27. Minus 4 times minus 3 is plus 12 and plus 3. So negative 27 plus 12 plus 3 is going to be negative 12. Then it says draw the graph of y equals to x cubed minus 4x plus 3 for the values of x greater than negative 3 and less than equal to 3. And then by drawing a suitable straight line on your graph, find the solutions of the equation x cubed minus 4x minus 2 equals to 0. So now we're going to plot these values. Over here, negative 2 and 3 is going to be 1, 2, 3. That's negative 2 and 3. The negative 1 and 6. After that, we have 0, 3. Then we have 1, 0. And we have 2, 3. And lastly, we have 3, 18. These are our points. And now let's join the points. That's our cubic curve. It says by drawing a suitable straight line on your graph, find the solutions of the equation x cubed minus 4x minus 2 equals to 0. So x cubed minus 4x minus 2 equals to 0. If we compare that with the original equation, that is y equals to x cubed minus 4x plus 3. So as you can see, minus 2 and 3 are different, which means y value was positive 5. Because if we put y equals to 5, so x cubed minus 4x plus 3, if we bring 5 to the other side, it's going to be 0 equals to x cubed minus 4x plus 3 minus 5. And plus 3 minus 5 is negative 2, which would give us the equation in the question now for which we have to find the values. Hence, to find the values of this equation, we will put y equals to 5. So we'll draw a line at y equals to 5 on the graph that we just sketched. So y equals to 5 is going to be at this. That's giving us 3 values over here. So we have around negative 0.3 or 4 over here. I can barely see the value. Over, I think we have negative 1.5. And over here we have 2.2. Yeah. So the graph is really tiny. I can barely see it, but like, I think my values are around these ranges. Yeah. Question 6 says the diagram shows a field ABCD drawn to a scale of 1 centimeter to 50 meters. The field has a straight path from D to the midpoint of AB. Draw the path and measure the angle the path makes with DC. So for this, what we'll do is midpoint of AB would be obviously right in the middle of AB. Draw the path and measure the angle. So measure the length of AB and mark the distance halfway between it. So let's say it's over here. So this side of the field has a straight path from D to AB, the midpoint of AB. So that is going to be this line. Let's call this M, which is the midpoint of AB. You have to measure the angle that this path makes with DC, which is this angle. So you will put your protractor over here and measure this angle. This would be like around like 40s or something because it's less than 90. So you'll get the exact value once you measure this value. Then it says grass is to be planted on an area of the field. The area to be planted is to be less than 325 meters from B and nearer to CB than CD and can only be on one side of the path. So it's nearer to CB than to CD, and it's less than 325 meters from the path. The question says that the distance of the point is less than 325 meters from point B. So let's first convert 325 meters into centimeters. For that, we'll use the scale. We know 1 centimeter is equal to 50 meters. So to find the value of 325 in centimeters, we divide this by 50. That is equal to 6.5 centimeter, which means you will open your compass to 6.5 centimeters and make an arc of 6.5 centimeters from B. I'm going to assume that the 6.5 comes, let's say, somewhere over here. We already know that the distance of D from the midpoint of AB is somewhere over here. And then it says it's closer to CB than to DC, which means we need to draw an angle bisector at point C. So for that, what we'll do is we'll open our compass to a specific distance, which is less than CD and BC. So let's say we're opening the compass to like 4 centimeter, supposedly. So you will put your pointed part at C and make an arc of 4 centimeter over here. So you will put the compass at point C again and draw another arc using the same distance on the line BC. Then using the same distance, you put the pointed part at both the arcs and draw 2 more arcs. So now you have this distance over here. So now you have this line over here passing directly through the middle of C. So this is your angle bisector. This line cuts the angle in 2 equal parts. So according to the locus over here, our shaded part is going to be this. This is less than 325 meters from B, and this is nearer to BC than to CD. So that's your answer. Then it says find the actual length of the part of the path that forms the boundary for the grass. So what you'll do is you will measure your distance in centimeters using a ruler, and then you will multiply those distances by 50 meters to convert them into meters. And then you will add up those distances to find the actual length of the path that forms the boundary, because boundary is your perimeter. So you need all of the distances. You need DA, you need AB, BC, and CD in meters, which you will do by multiplying those distances by 50 meters. And that would give you the right answer. Question 7 says Yasser travels to work either by car, bus, train, or bike. The probabilities of using these means of transport on any workday are shown in the table. Find the value of P. So the total probability of events happening in a certain scenario is always equal to 1, which means 1 would equal to the sum of 0.12, 0.40, plus 0.26, plus P. So we add these up. 0.12 plus 0.4 plus 0.26 is 0.78. So the value of P is going to be 1 minus 0.78, which is equal to 0.22. Then says find the probability that on Monday and Tuesday he travels to work by train on one day and by bus on the other day. So it doesn't say that, he's traveling by bus first or train first. So what we can say is that first on Monday he's traveling by train, so 0.26, and then on Tuesday he's traveling by bus, which is 0.4. Or he can travel by bus on Monday and train on Tuesday. So when we add this up, we get 0.208. If you read the question again, they're not restricting it. They're just saying that find the probability that on Monday and Tuesday he travels to work by train on one day and by bus on the other day. It doesn't say that on Monday he was going by train and on Tuesday he was going by bus. It just says on one day he's taking this transport and on the other day he's taking the other transport, which means we can swap them. Hence, there are two possibilities. Then it says find the probability that he travels to work by bus at least once on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to make a tree diagram. The probability that he leaves on bus on Wednesday is 0.4. So the probability that he doesn't leave by bus on Wednesday is going to be 0.6. So bus, not bus. Then again, for Thursday, if he leaves by bus, the probability is 0.4. And if he doesn't leave by bus, the probability is 0.6. So again, over here, bus and not bus. So it says that at least once he travels by bus on Wednesday or Thursday. So he can go this way and this way, this way and this way, this way and this way. Because they're saying that he needs to travel by bus at least once on Wednesday or Thursday. So that means he can travel more than once as well. So our probability is going to be 0.4 times 0.4 plus 0.4 times 0.6, which is the second option. Then plus the third option, which is 0.6 times 0.4. And this will equal to 0.64. So like I said, first option is going to be traveling by bus on Wednesday and Thursday. The next option is he can travel by bus on Wednesday, but not on Thursday. And the third option is that he travels by bus on Thursday, but not on Wednesday. So these three options are giving us the probability that we need. Then it says Yasser records the length of time he spends at work on each of 70 work days. The table shows the results. Complete the histogram to represent the data. So as you can see on the y-axis, they've given us the frequency density. On the x-axis, we have the time in hours. So we have to find the frequency density for these intervals. So frequency density has the formula of frequency over class width. So the first case, our frequency is 9. And class width is the difference of 7.5 and 8, which is 0.5. And that's going to give us 18. Then for the next one, I'm just going to write the frequency density for each over here. So 18 over here. And for the other one, frequency is 23 and class width is again 0.5. So that's going to be 46. Then for the next one, it's going to be 18 divided by 0.75 because the difference is going to be 0.75 over here. And that's going to give us 24. And for the last one, it's going to be 10 divided by 1.25, which gives us 12.5. So now let's sketch the histogram over here. So for the first one, it's 18. So 18 is over here. So 7.5 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then what we have is 46. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is also half. So that is going to be like that. Yeah. And after that, it's a 3/4, and the value is 18. And the value is 24. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And 3/4 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Something like this. And lastly, 12.5 is going to come 11, 12. This is so untidy, but I can barely see anything, guys. It's going to be something like this. That is your complete histogram. Let me just remove the extra lines, and there we go. Then it says that Yasha starts work each day at 9 a.m. He's paid overtime if he works later than 5:15 p.m. Estimate the number of days he is paid overtime during these 70 work days. So as you said that after 8 hours and 15 minutes, that's when he's going to get paid for his overtime. So if we go to the table, 8 hours and 15 minutes and above is going to come in these two intervals. But over here, it's beginning with 8 hours, not with 8 hours and 15 minutes. So between 8 to 8/3/4, we start from 8, we go to 8/1/4, 8/2/4, and then 8/3/4. So 15 minutes, this is your 30 minutes, and then this is your 45 minutes. Okay. So now we have the frequency of 18. So since our starting point is this, so we don't need this 15 minutes. If you look at the frequency, that's 18. So that means we're going to take this portion and this portion. That's 2/3 of the frequency, which is 18. So that's going to be 12. And for the 8/3/4 to 10, that's going to be the entire frequency because that is a part of the overtime. So total would be 12 plus 10, which is 22. That is your answer. In case there's any confusion, just remember that overtime begins after 8 hours and 15 minutes have been covered during his job. So after that, 8 hours and 15 minutes starts in this interval. But the starting point of this interval is 8 hours, not 8 hours and 15 minutes, which means we exclude that first quarter. So when excluding that first quarter, we're getting rid of the frequency in that quarter as well. So since there are 3 intervals from 8 to 8/3/4, we make a fraction of 2/3 because our focus is on 2 intervals from that range, not all 3 intervals. So 2/3 of 18, which is 12, and plus the entire last interval because that is a part of overtime, 10. So 12 plus 10, that's 22. And that's your answer. Question 8 says apple costs X dollars per kilogram and oranges cost Y dollars per kilogram. The total cost of 5 kg of apples and 10 kgs of oranges is $40. Show that X plus 2Y equals to 8. So X dollars per kilogram for apples and total cost of 5 kg of apples and 10 kg of oranges, $40. So if we do 5 times X, which is apples, the total cost of buying apples plus 10 times Y, which is the total cost of buying oranges, equal to the total cost of buying 5 kg and 10 kg of apples and oranges, that's 40. So 5, 10, and 40 all are multiples of 5, which means if we divide the entire equation five, 10, and 40, all three are multiples of 5, which means if we divide the entire equation by 5, we will get a simplified version, which is going to be X plus 2Y equals to 8, which is given in the question. Then says the total cost of 4 kg of apples and 3 kgs of oranges is $19. Use simultaneous equations to find the cost of 1 kilogram of apples and 1 kilogram of oranges. So X was for apples and Y was for oranges. So we have a new equation, which is 4X plus 3Y equals to 19. And the previous one was X plus 2Y equals to 8. So we can use substitution or elimination method depending on whichever you prefer. I'm going to stick to substitution for this because we can make X the subject in the second equation and say that X equals to 8 minus 2Y, which is your third equation. So we'll substitute the third equation in first equation, which will give us 4 times 8 minus 2Y plus 3Y equals to 19. As you can see now, the first equation is just in terms of Y. There is no X, which makes it easier for you to solve this equation and find the value of Y. 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times negative 2Y is negative 8Y plus 3Y equals to 19. Negative 8Y plus 3Y is negative 5Y. I'm going to take 32 to the other side, so it's going to be negative 5Y equals to 19 minus 32, which will give us negative 13. So negative 5Y equals to negative 13. Cancel the negative signs. Y equals to 13 over 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to substitute Y equals to 13 over 5 in the third equation. So that's going to be X equals to 8 minus 2 times 13 over 5. There's going to be 8 minus 26 over 5. Multiply 5 with 8, so that's 40 minus 26 over 5, which will give us 14 over 5, which is basically your X value. So cost of apples, if you put this in decimals, this is $2.6 and this is $2.8. That's your answer. Then solve this inequality. So first, we will begin with dividing each term by 4. Why? Because our goal is to find the value of X, and to find the value of X, we need to isolate X in the middle. Rid of the 4 first by dividing everything by 4. So that's going to be negative 2, X minus 3, and 7 over 4. Now we add 3 to get rid of the 3 over here. So that's going to be 1, X, and 7 plus 12 over 4, which will give us 19 over 4. That is your inequality. You can even rewrite this as a mixed number, which is going to be 4 whole number, 3 over 4. Then we have to solve this algebraic equation to find the value of x correct to 2 decimal places. So first we need to make the denominators equal because we're adding fractions with unlike denominators, which means to the first fraction we will multiply 2x plus 3 to the numerator and denominator. And to the second fraction we will multiply x minus 1 to the numerator and denominator. So that's going to be 8x plus 12 over x minus 1 times 2x plus 3 plus 2x minus 2 over 2x plus 3 and x minus 1 equal to 1. I'm going to combine this as a single fraction. That's going to be 8x plus 2x plus 12 minus 2 equal to 1. Now I will cross multiply this so that we get rid of the fraction. That's going to be 10x plus 10 equals to 1 times x minus 1 times 2x plus 3, which is going to be the brackets themselves. Now we will expand the brackets on the right hand side. So x gets multiplied with 2x and 3, and negative 1 gets multiplied with 2x and 3. So that's going to be 2x squared plus 3x minus 2x minus 3, which will equal to 2x squared plus x minus 3. Now we collect all of the terms on one side. 2x squared plus x minus 10x minus 3 minus 10, which will be 2x squared minus 9x minus 13. Now we have to factorize this quadratic equation. So since it already said that the answer would be correct to 2 decimal places, which means we use the quadratic formula. X equals to negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Your a value is 2, b value is negative 9, and c is negative 13. Always remember a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is your constant. So it's going to be x equals to negative minus 9 plus minus square root of negative 9 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times negative 13. Let me just rewrite this over here. X equals to minus 2 plus minus square root of x equals to minus negative 9 plus minus square root of negative 9 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 13 over 2 times 2. That's going to be 81 plus 4 times 2 times 13. Positive 9 plus minus square root of 185 over 4. So let me just remove this part now because I need some space. So that's going to be x equals to 9 plus minus square root of 185 over 4. Square root of 185 is 13.6160 actually over 4. So one value will be 9 plus 13.6 over 4, 5.65. And the other would be 9 minus 13.6 over 4, which is negative 1.15. So these are your values correct to 2 decimal places. Question 9 says, diagram shows the positions of 3 towns A, B, and C. They have given us the length of A, B, and AC. They have given us the bearing of B from A and C from A. They want us to find the bearing of A from C. So, bearing of A from C. So they want us to find this angle. Okay. So what we have is, we have this bearing over here of C from A, which is 150. So that's this distance. So this angle is 72, which means we can find this angle. Let me use a different color. This angle would be 150 minus 72, which is going to give us 78. So the green angle is 78. Okay, so we're supposed to find the bearing of A from C. So if you remember, in parallel lines, alternate angles are equal. So this angle over here is alternate to this angle over here. So we will do 150 plus 180 for this bearing, and that's going to be 330 degrees. That is your bearing of A from C. Then it says calculate the length of BC. So you already said this is 78. Let me use a different color. This is 78. So I have to find BC. So when we have two lengths in the angle between them and we're trying to find the third length, we use the cosine rule. So it's going to be BC square equals to AB square plus AC square minus 2 times AB times AC times cos of angle A. So that's going to be 300 square plus 280 square minus 2 times 300 times 280 times cos of 78. 300 square plus 280 square is 168400 minus, we do 2 times 300, 2 times 300 times 280 times cos of 78, which is 34,929.16. Always remember, when you're using the cosine formula, solve this part together. Don't separate this. Because if you separate this, a common mistake made is that you add up 300 square and 280 square, and then you subtract the product of 2 times 300 times 280 from it. And then at the end, multiply that by cos 78, which is completely wrong. So first, find the product of 2 times AB times AC times cos A. And whatever the result is, then subtract that from your sum of 300 square and 280 square. So we're going to do going to subtract these two, and that is going to give us this. So this is equal to BC square. Square root both sides to find the value of BC. That's going to give us 365.34 kilometers. That is your length of BC. Then part C says town D is 145 kilometers from town B and angle ADB is 120. Find two possible bearings of D from A. You may add lines to the sketch to help you. So it says town D is 145 kilometers from town B. So I'm going to draw a random triangle over here and assume that this is 120. I know it doesn't look like 120, but we're just assuming things right now. And this distance is given as 145. We have to find the two possible bearings of D from A. So the bearing of D from A is going to be all of this. And for that, we need this angle first. So we will use sine formula over here because in sine formula, you need one complete set of length and opposite angle, which we have over here. And for the other set, we have the length, but we need to find the angles. So sine rule. So we will do 300 over sine of 120 equals to 145 over sine of angle A. So sine of angle A is going to equal to 145 over sine of 120 divided by 300, which equals to 0.41857. And then we take sine inverse of this. That's going to give us 24.74. So that's this angle. So we're supposed to find the bearing of D from A. It says two possible bearings of D from A, which means D will not only be below the line, but it can also be above AB, which means D can be over here as well. And we already know that the bearing of B from A is 72. So what we can do is to find the bearing of D from A, we can either do 72 plus 24.74, which will give us all of this angle. So that's going to be 96.74. Add a 0 over here because bearing is given as 3 digits. And for the other one, this is your bearing. So that's going to be 72 minus 24.74. Because this angle is also 24.74. Since it's asking for two values, our main assumption over here is going to be that angle D can be above the line and below the line. Initially, we start with below the line because you're trying to figure out the values for the angles and everything. But once you figure that out, we can also put in the assumption that D can be above the line as well. So for that, we do 72 minus 24.74, which is going to give us 047.26. So these are the two bearings of D from A. Once again, they haven't exactly told us where it is. They've just given us the angle of A to B, which is 120. So D can be either above the line or below the line. So with these two assumptions, we first begin with finding the value of angle A. Then we find the value of angle B. After that, what we do is, using the assumption that D can be above and below the line, we find two values for the bearing using the initial bearing of B from A, which is 72. So 72 plus 24.74 is one value, and 72 minus 24.74 is another value. And that's your answer. Question 10 says the diagram shows triangle A, B, and C. Describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B. If you look at shape A and shape B, we can see that shape B is the same size as shape A, which means there's low enlargement. And the direction of the shape is also same, which means there's no rotation. Hence, the only option left is translation. So pick a point on A and pick a point on B. Let's look at the X value. For the X value, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. So that's going to be -4 over here. And for the Y value, we're going 1, 2, 3 units up. So that's going to be +3. So this is your translation vector. Basically, we're going 4 units to the left side, hence -4. And we're going 3 units up. So that's +3. Find the matrix representing the transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle C. So if you compare triangle A and triangle C, what we can see is that the Y value is the same, but the X value is negative for C, whereas for A it's positive, which means the translation vector is going to be -1, 0, 0, 1. Triangle A is mapped onto triangle D by an enlargement with center 2, 3 and scale factor 3. Draw triangle D. So 2, 3 is our center of enlargement. So if I draw a line passing through the center of enlargement and triangle A, then I draw another line over here, and then the last line using these lines, we're going to figure out what the coordinates of shape D are. So we know that scale factor is 3, right? So our scale factor is 3. If you look at the distance of this point from the center, it's just 1 block, which means for the enlarged shape, the distance is going to be 1 times 3, which is 3 blocks. So for this point, our coordinate is going to be over 1, 2, 3 over here. Then for this point, the distance is 2 blocks, and over here, but the length of this line is 1 block, which means this distance will be now 2 times 3, which is 6, and this would be 1 times 3, which is 3. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6. That's over here, and there's a distance of 3 over here. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Since this line has a distance of 1, so that means the distance between these 2 points will be 3 units now. And over here, since it's 2, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are your coordinates for shape D. And that is going to be your answer. Question 11 says P is the point 3, -3, and Q is the point 1, 5. Calculate the length of PQ. So that's going to be square of y2 minus y1 plus square of x2 minus x1. This can be x1, this can be y1, this can be x2, and this can be y2. So that's going to be 5 minus -3 whole square plus 1 minus 3 whole square. 8 square plus negative 2 square, which is 64 plus 4, and that's going to be square root of 68. Basically going to equal to 8.25 corrected 2 decimal places. Find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of PQ. So let's write on points first. 3, negative 3, and 1, 5. So gradient is going to be of So let's begin with finding the gradient of PQ. So gradient of PQ is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's going to be 5 minus negative 3 over 1 minus 3, which is 8 over negative 2, and that's equal to negative 4. In perpendicular lines, your gradient of one line times the gradient of the other line is going to equal to negative 1, which means we do negative 4 times m2 equals to negative 1, which will give us negative 1 over negative 4. That equals to 1 over 4. Now that we've sorted out the gradients, we need to find the point of PQ. Because in a perpendicular bisector, bisect means that's going to divide the line in two equal parts. So M, which is the midpoint of PQ, formula for the midpoint is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma y1 plus y2 over 2. That's going to be 3 plus 1 over 2, negative 3 plus 5 over 2. That's 4 over 2 and 2 over 2, which is 2, 1. So we're going to use this point and this gradient to create the equation of the perpendicular bisector, which is going to be y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. So that's y minus 1 equals to 1 over 4 times x minus 2. Cross multiply, so 4y minus 4 equals to x minus 2. 4y is x minus 2 plus 4. And let me just remove this part over here. It is going to be 4y equals to x plus 2 and y equals to x over 4 plus 1 over 2, because 2 divided by 4 is 1 over 2. That is your answer.